Tuesday, April 8th. I'll call the Select Board meeting to order. And first item is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes to the drafted agenda?
Just a small typo on item 5. This is Middlebury Policy Department should be Police Department, correct?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, Chief.
I didn't know we had a policy department.
They're bucking for a department.
Yeah, we're climbing the ladder.
I heard there were big promotions.
Good catch.
Okay, anything else? Mark, anything, no? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda with the typo correction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything in the consent agenda anyone would like to,
Another small typo in the minutes. It says members present Dan Brown and members absent Dan Brown. They're on both.
he was absent.
I'm glad to see that you're finally reading these things before the meeting.
He was in a quantum state, he was both absent and present.
It should be everywhere.
Brian? On item 3E, the thank you letters, can I ask that the board concur with sending one to Andrew LaRoe, who has served on the Conservation Commission and is retiring. He's done a lot of work in mapping and so forth, and I also wanted to compliment in that vein David for the way his role is reflected well, David's in the minutes of the Conservation Committee. The other comment I have is about the town manager's general fund budget status ledger, all 49 pages. Maybe that's something that, I wonder if the board wants to talk about getting something in a form like Kathleen did that's not 49 pages, but might be more easier. But I'd only want to ask Mark whether, rather than going through individual things that come to mind, like the rec budget appearing to be over, is there anything alarming to you that you want to bring to our attention in those and all of that? Is this, no?
No, not at this time. We can prepare a report similar to what you have in front of you. I did talk to Nick about that, and he said that it looks to him like that information was imported into an Excel spreadsheet. That's something we can do. I probably wouldn't want to do it any more than quarterly because I think it's a bit of a lift for Nick's office, but we can certainly do that if that's something the board would like to see going forward.
Yeah, I had sent Mark one that had been in a packet that of the type that Kathleen had sent us, that has, general fund and.
That's usually around budget time, though.
Well, it's.
As far as what she would do routinely would be to highlight utilization, and if there was anything that was jumping out, tracking over.
I reviewed some years, and she generally did them in this time of year, as we get near the end of the fiscal year, see where we are with things. And,
Yeah.
but they also are automatically done as part of the budget, in December. And early in the fiscal year, like in the fall, September, I don't know, you aren't far enough in the year to really need to worry about it so much. But
I did put a note in our annual operations calendar. I put a reminder in there after our conversation about this, Fred, just so that if you did decide that you want to see these quarterly, we'll have that reminder popping up.
it might be,
4 times a year.
at your discretion. The other times, like if we have a bad winter, and we've exhausted the winter maintenance budget, or if you need to introduce the status of things, if you need the board to vote to move money from one budget to another, which level of budget transfer.
I'm guessing we're going to be having some of those conversations soon as we get closer and closer to the end of the fiscal years.
I can
Thank you.
see some value for a fiscal year end review, how we did. Anything else in here?
I actually noticed a typo too, that, in item 3F, Safe Routes event is actually May 3rd, not March 3rd.
And just to add to that note, because there was a question earlier, so to share with the whole group, the insurance for one is covering both. There was a question in a previous meeting about insurance issues.
Came up with a workaround.
Yeah, BMP's insurance covers, since they're at the same site, same time. So,
Good. Anything else? Okay, I would like to call attention to the thank you letters, because they're to individuals who served many years for the community. And at a time when we're looking at new appointments, and we have a number of people here, and we always ask for people to give of their time to our committees, and here are 3 people being recognized for not just giving a little, but giving an extraordinary amount of time. And so, Natalie Peters, Ross Conrad, and Richard Hopkins, certainly 3 community members who have given a lot, and we thank you for all of the work that you've done in support of the town. So, with those comments, I guess, then I would, we're looking for approval of the consent agenda with minor changes.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Citizen comments. Is there anyone here for something that's not on the agenda? I don't have any visibility of Netherworld here.
Nobody.
Okay, so it doesn't look like any hands are up. Chief?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This should be an easy one. We ordered, excuse me, a new cruiser Dodge Durango. You approved on January 28th, I believe it was, and we've already taken delivery in record time, which caught us unaware because we're accustomed to ordering in December and receiving in August or September. So now we need to upfit it. You have before you 2 quotes for that upfitting fee. One from Guide Stripes for $18,000. The next for hardwired electronics for there's actually I believe a typo in here. The amount you're seeing for the hardwired quote is $14,400.30. The actual quote I was looking at is $14,300.80.
Okay.
80 cents.
But our canine vehicle outfitting was done with Hardwired our first time working with them, and we had a great experience. And so I'd recommend we go with that lower quote.
Questions? Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to approve the proposed agreement with Hardwired for $14,400.30 for the upfitting of the recently purchased Dodge Durango police cruiser.
Can I get you just to amend it to the actual quote, $14,300.80?
Oh, okay, so we'll amend to that $14,300.80.
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? That was easy, chief, thanks.
I like it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Now we get to all of the positions here, and before I give it over to you, Mark, our tradition has been that we review them all, and we would nominate the entire slate with everyone who's being considered, and then at the next meeting we would come back and make final selections. After any comments that Mark might have about the slate here, we'll give an opportunity for anyone who is an applicant for one of the positions to make some comments, introduce yourself, and, say why you feel you'd like to serve in that position, so, with that, Mark?
I think you pretty much covered it. I just wanted to add that all of the information was included in your packets for this evening, and I wanted to also mention that, because I think it's noteworthy that we did cast a much wider net this year, and I think that's why you're seeing so many new names, and I wanted to thank David for all of his efforts in doing that.
How did you cast a wider net? What did you do that was
So,
different?
a couple things. We reached out to some existing civic groups. You can see some of them listed there, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, some PTAs, and simply, they're existing groups of people, so simply asking them to reach out on our behalf. We worked to see if John Flowers from the paper would write an article kind of highlighting, frankly, we've had some difficulties in the last years sort of getting our numbers up, so he was nice enough to write an article that reflected our desire to get more volunteers. Megan helped a bit with some organizations and some social media. And then we added something on the website to allow people to not have to fill out a paper form, which means they have to mail it in or bring it in, and that can be an inconvenience. So just casting a wider net to a lot of existing social groups and trying to reach more people. BMP and the Chamber were also helpful in reaching out to other folks. So.
That was very exciting to see the number of people who stepped forward, and so, I guess you don't have anything else. I'm thinking maybe we go through with, a lot of different, we could go position by position, or just, so, why don't we do that?
I have a question.
Shoot.
In some of these boards, we can actually be creative with the size of the boards, right? And it gives us.
We need to define that.
You're right.
I think that's a question,
Yep.
Mark, that we should be ready for at the next meeting,
Mhm.
as to if we would like to expand a board. Some of them are defined, and some we've had more flexibility. So we probably would like to have that clear to the board at the next meeting, whether we can add. So it says, for instance, you got 4 positions and 6 applicants. Can we go to 5 positions if we want to?
And in the past, I understand the process has been in some cases to add alternates rather than expanding the board.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
correct? Okay.
Well, alternates are only actually really needed for the Development Review Board, because the nature of the statute that creates that requires that a majority of the full board act. So an absentee member is in fact a no vote for an applicant. That's why they have an alternate, so that they can step in and you have a better chance of, if you're an applicant, in case it's a divided board. It's not always, it can be awkward for other boards. What's the status of an alternate with can they
Fred,
participate at the same level or not? So I'm just commenting on my experience and the knowledge of the statute regarding the DRB.
Yeah, we've done alternates on other ones, like I've been the alternate on public health and safety for the select board, and I've got to vote on almost every single meeting I've been, and there's other comments that this, so it actually does fill, it gives us some flexibility, it gives more people able to participate, and it seems to work. I mean,
I'm not
I understand the
necessarily
statutory one.
objecting to it, I was just commenting on the
Okay.
one that's needed by statute.
Okay, so we'll
Do some research.
just kind of research and define, and maybe give us some guidance or thoughts to discuss on that, so. Planning Commission, all the candidates that are here for the Planning Commission, are the candidates online right now?
I think we had one gentleman. Yeah, we have Dave.
Dave, okay, he's not in
There's
the,
one.
Planning Commission, go ahead and step forward one at a time here, just come, be good if you came up to the mic so that it goes onto the YouTube.
Ethan Kellogg. I've been on the planning commission this last term, so learned a lot from it with Jen. and I've really enjoyed my time, and looking to rejoin again for another term.
Planning Commission has a big job to do, right? We're
Maybe now.
right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and Jen leaving, it's gonna be a lot different coming up. I think it's good to have, maintain some of the members that are on the commission to kinda help what Jen started here and, continue that on.
Well, thanks, Ethan, and, yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, so looking forward to the decision. So you said next meeting is the.
Next meeting, we've always done this where we nominate and then we come back and select them and finalize the positions.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Microphone's kind of between the chairs. I'm Craig Landgren. Everyone calls me Randy. Since 1977, I've lived in Middlebury on and off for 25 years. I feel it's time to give back to the community. My brain works by planning, and probably the most intensive period that I was involved in planning was in the construction of Bicentennial Hall. In the document I gave you, I told you that I was the translator. So I talked to the faculty, I talked to the staff, I talked to the architects, and I talked to the engineers, and then I said, "You're not listening to each other." And it was a very enjoyable job. It's something that I like doing, and I'd love the opportunity to give back to the community.
Well, thank you.
My name is Charlotte Tate, and you all did a wonderful job of outreach for new people on the commissions. And in fact, as I reviewed the notes for this meeting, I realized that I applied for Planning Commission and I see there's an overabundance of applicants. I already serve on the Conservation Commission, so I just wanted to convey my sense that if there's too many people for too few slots, please let others take the position, and I will do my job going forward as I had planned to already continue anyway on Conservation Commission. Although I'd love to serve on Planning Commission, I also want to have as many people and good minds at work for the town. So, need be, please, I'll withdraw my application.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Gracious.
Thank you.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name is Phil Pedlican. I am a relative newcomer to Middlebury. I just built a house out on K Street, 116. You go up Quarry and take a left. It's about a mile down. You probably saw the Lanfear construction sign if you drove through there. That's me. But Ed built it for me, I should say. I live now here in Vermont. I lived in Virginia for 25 years, raised my family there. I then did my homework. I have a 26-year-old with Down syndrome, and I needed to find the right place for him to be an adult with a disability instead of a child. Virginia was good for him until he was 22, and then a disaster, quite literally. So we moved here, the entire family. I brought my son-in-law and my daughter. My son-in-law is a teacher at Otter Valley. My daughter is taking some time off. She's pregnant with my first grandchild. I now know what it's like to build a house here. I now know what it's like to deal with the government here. I have a background in some regional planning work. I have a PhD in public policy from George Mason University in Virginia, where I studied with Dr. Stephen Fuller, who is the regional expert in the Mid-Atlantic, or was, he's retired now, in the Mid-Atlantic region on regional planning. And so I studied with him. I also studied with experts in budgeting, et cetera, et cetera. So when I saw that this was open, I figured I would apply and see if it would be of interest. I've only been here since November, admit that. I'm already on the board of the Champlain Counseling Services out of Williston. My extensive background in disability policy, my extensive background in policy in general, has led me in a lot of directions. But I also have a lot of extensive involvement with government. If anybody has any experience with disability policy, you'll know that one of the great innovations of the last 20 years was the ABLE Act, which allowed people with disabilities to save money for the first time without losing their benefits. That was concocted at my kitchen table. So I built the strategy for it, I put it together, and we accomplished it. It took us 10 years to do it. Bottom line is, I want to be a serious part of this community, and I look forward to that opportunity. Whether this is the right one or not, well, you guys will have to decide for me. But I considered that my background, my extensive background in this arena might be valuable, and I might bring a fresh voice to the way things are done around here. I'm not saying that the apple cart needs to be upset or anything like that, but I think I do bring up a different perspective because of the background that I have and the way that I look at things and the people I've had to deal with who've had to overcome government issues over the time that I've been.
Thank you, Philip, and you're applying for the Regional Planning Commission position, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Brian, we also have Derek, who was an applicant for planning, and he is on, if you want to jump to him.
Sure.
All right. Derek, I am going to allow you to speak. There we go. You just need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Derek.
Hi, yeah, my name's Derek Coombs, and I'm a member of the Middlebury community, high school graduate from here. I've been gone for about 20 years, but I'm trying to seek out the Development Review Board position. I'm a real estate agent of 6 years between New Hampshire and Vermont, and I've been a loan signing agent and notary public, and I'm just trying to immerse myself further in the community. I've got 2 boys. I'm Mary Hogan, and I'm greatly involved with the athletics community here, and so I work on development projects through real estate, and just wanted to put my name in the hat, put my hat in the pool of candidates.
One of those medical pools. Sounds good, Derek. Thank you. Welcome back to Middlebury.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. So let's go on to the Development Review Board.
I didn't promote him.
Anyone here in the group Derek just talked? He had put in for both the Planning Commission and to the board here. He put in for both the Planning Commission and or the Development Review Board. Anybody else here for the DRB? Okay. Let's go to the Design Advisory Committee, and we didn't have any applicants. Regional Planning Commission, Philip has spoken. Is anyone else? And Randy, you would, yes.
I'm still interested.
Yes. I think you were interested in either of the planning positions.
I'm not interested in both of them, but I wouldn't mind the infrastructure committee.
Okay.
I'm mobility impaired, and I think that infrastructure needs somebody who is.
Got it.
Hugh McLaughlin. Many years ago, Andy and I both went up for the Regional Planning Commission. I was refereeing a soccer game and he showed up, so he became the representative and I became the adjunct. They're on.
Truer words.
And have served since.
And my goal here is to make sure that we get funds for things like the bike plan and other things like that that come down. We are the Shire town. We are most important to the economic health of the county, to be honest. And one of our strengths in the Regional Planning Commission is to see that we share services and other things like that for that. A year ago, I thought I was going to be out of town by this time, and suddenly the retirement community in New Hampshire, instead of being in the next year, said in the next 4 to 5 years. So instead of being an alternate, I am willing to, and I have been voting almost every meeting on that. I don't care whether I'm an alternate or a regular, I will still attend there, and I will try to get the resources that we can, that become available for the town, and to work with others, the clean water, the housing, I'm really happy to see that go. And I'm also an alternate on Maple Broadband. We do have a switch site, but we don't have connections to it right now for Middlebury, but hopefully, depending on some funding issues there, it's been a pleasure to work with Ross on those. So I am willing to take either one. If there are new people who would like to join, I will still show up to the meetings, and on the Transportation Advisory Committee, the same situation there. We did put in a new regional transportation plan and took off the attempt to run a railroad across South 7 south of town that was in the old plan, and other things like that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugh.
It's been a pleasure to serve, and I hope to continue serving as long as I live in Middlebury. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Hugh.
Anyone else on Regional Planning Commission? Then the Regional Planning Commission TAC.
Are you talking about any?
What's that?
Are you talking about any of the regional planning?
No, I just went to the TAC, which is you.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly. Okay, so Laura Cermole. Yeah, I put my name in. I forgot Hugh was already there at the table. I'm fine with Hugh being at the table. I can be an alternate at the table.
Well, I will let you be the regular, and I will be the alternate.
Oh, good.
The alternate last
Okay.
year, I will keep the alternate.
You don't have to make a
We
decision.
need more
Yeah.
people. So,
What's the difference between
you
the
get the
TAC
first
and the
vote.
regular?
Okay, and as Hugh said, I know that we can all attend meetings and still have voice and input. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
To the point.
Anyone else here for that position? Okay, Sports Commission, no applicants.
In that one, a recent conversation we had with Heather Seeley, some of you, Dan, you were away, but you know, she's very involved with the Hockey Association, and her knowledge of that building and facility. And I wonder if it would be appropriate if we could nominate her and then confirm whether she's interested in serving. They don't meet very often, but her knowledge and contribution to that particular one, I think, would be fantastic. We could.
I almost feel like she said she was gonna have a role. Okay, I think we should ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was talking about that. I didn't remember if she had a position, it wasn't the town position, but it was the.
Drives the Zamboni.
Well, and the youth hockey organization,
Youth
right,
hockey
with
or-
Maha.
Yeah, and representing them, so.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the DIDC, and I know Dave's on here.
Alrighty, Dave, I'm gonna promote you here, so just give us a second. There he is.
Good evening, Dave.
Hello. I'll reintroduce myself to all of you and pretend you don't already know me. My name is Dave Silverman. I am a resident of downtown. I am a property owner in the downtown district of a commercial property. The building that houses the Mead place down at the corner of Elm and Seymour. And I also have a business downtown, Florida Cannabis. I love the downtown. I love living, working, recreating, shopping downtown. You know, I've enjoyed seeing the downtown come back from the pandemic and construction kind of hole that it was in. And I think, you know, while a lot of progress has been made, more can be made to make the downtown more inviting to locals and tourists, shoppers, visitors, families, and kids. I'd like to be a part of that. And so thank you for your consideration. I serve in a few different roles. I'm an elected JP here in town. I'm your High Bailiff here in Addison County. And I've recently gotten off some committee work, so I have a little bit of time available for this committee work. And I think, you know, my skills would suit it, my interests would suit it, and yeah, so thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I see at least one other here. Good evening, Victoria.
Hi there. I'm Victoria Jetty. I think I know almost everybody. And I'm interested in being on the Downtown Improvement District Commission. My husband and I own the Dyer Building, which is just 59 Main Street, houses parlor and the Indian restaurant and Autumn Gold. I'm interested mostly, I know that the DIDC is sort of at a crossroads in that they're coming up on their 7-year renewal. And so I think it would be an exciting time to be part of helping them to set goals for how to support the downtown businesses moving forward, and to determine how the DID marries with other town improvement efforts. And also I'm interested in understanding if the tax rate that is, you know, asked of business owners, if that's the appropriate rate. I know there's a somewhat of a surplus at this point, and so I'd be interested to discuss projects going forward. And really, I think that we have groups that do a great job bringing people downtown, and I think that in my eyes, the role of the DIDC is really to get the local businesses' voice in what they need. I've been generally supportive of the work DIDC has done, and I'd be interested going forward to really connect with the business owners, because they are the experts in the community on what downtown needs to help them thrive. I love Middlebury. I love our downtown, and I admire all of our business owners a lot, so I'd be really interested in figuring out how to help support them.
Thank you. Anybody else here for the DIDC? Energy Committee, Town Infrastructure Committee. Parks and Recreation.
Candy's here for it.
Yes.
So I've been on the Infrastructure Committee for 2 terms, and I'd like one more because I think I finally have a good sense of what some of the needs are, and how capable the staff is, and how important it is that they have the equipment and the facilities, which we do, but I want to keep advocating for that. And I have a particular interest. When I worked for the town of Lexington, Massachusetts, we had a public works day, and I know that can take a lot of staff time, and I'm not suggesting implement something elaborate, but I think educating the public about what the needs are to make a town run properly. You know, we need the proper equipment to mow the lawns and plow the snow, and the new sidewalk plow is great. I love it, and I think people just don't think about the equipment and the infrastructure it takes to do the job of a town, and I would love to do a little bit to help maybe educate as part of the committee. And when a big question comes up, maybe get an article in the paper to talk about it. So that's something that I would be interested in on now that I kind of know what's going on and how different Middlebury and Vermont is from public works and government in Lexington in Massachusetts. It's interesting how different it is in a different state. So I would love another term.
Okay, thanks, Candy. Was there anybody else that I missed on the infrastructure? Okay, Parks and Rec. Conservation Commission.
Jeff Howard coming in?
Conservation. Yep, we do actually have, Jeff just popped on, so. Jeff, you're up if you wanna unmute yourself. Let's see if we can send him. Yeah.
Jeff, are you with us? Just going around and we just got to the Conservation Commission. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm not up for I'm not applying for the Conservation Commission. I'm just tuning in to see Jeff Murray's report, so.
I think there's an error.
There's an error in there somewhere.
Okay. And also, Charlotte is listed twice, and I think she,
Yeah, there are two people who weren't on that list who were on the commission, Eric Moody and Dave Allen, and Molly Anderson is not on the list you have is. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. We'll work to correct that.
Coming off, Andrew LaRoe is coming off, and then there are 6 other current members.
Okay, thank you. Maple Broadband. I know we got Drew here. Please.
I gotta set the camera. So you all know me. I'm Drew. I've lived in Middlebury my whole life, and I applied to be on the Communications Union District for Maple Broadband because I believe that the internet is a foundation to our modern society. It should be treated as a utility, and everyone in Vermont should have equal access to high-speed broadband. As far as my training goes, I've been in computer networking forever. I've done it for a lot of different companies, been in the nonprofit space now for half a decade. And at Chittenden Community Television, I actually was responsible for managing a 7-mile long dark fiber line between 2 of our locations. So I know the technology, I know the lingo. I also serve on the statewide content committee for the Vermont Access Network as their secretary. So I know how to serve on a board, I know how to take good notes on a board. I understand the technology, and I would be really excited to have this awesome opportunity to be able to serve the Middlebury and all the towns in the CUD. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Drew. Thank you. Alan?
Hi everybody, Alan Shashok, a 30-plus year resident of Middlebury, except for a recent 1-year absence. I just returned to Middlebury, finding that I have time to want to engage with the community, much more so than I had in the past. In a previous life, I have 25 years of telecommunication experience with the various cable companies here in Vermont, right from the beginning of broadband when Adelphia started to offer the hybrid service, where it was dial-up and high-speed down, so right from the very beginning at that time. My current job at UVM is kind of a quasi-board situation, so I am familiar with board dynamics and how all that works. So I would be very excited to be engaged with this particular committee, and I'll kind of echo what was just said. To attract employees to Vermont, we need high-speed internet in all phases of the communities to make sure that we're growing. So, any questions?
Thanks, Alan.
Great, thank you.
Is there anybody else I missed? Okay. You gonna sell us on delinquent tax collector, Mark?
No, but we are gonna talk about it on the 22nd.
Fence viewer?
So, I'm Patty Pruitt, and I was mostly curious about what a fence viewer would be. My takeaway is it was have a mediator between neighbors. There's a boundary dispute. Originally, I believe it was livestock crossing over.
Still is, the only
does?
basis.
Yeah. So having been a large animal veterinarian, I thought I can talk to livestock owners pretty well, and I feel I'm good at listening to both sides. So I applied.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Patty. Okay, and I guess everybody else.
Patty's also a candidate for the deputy health officer.
And what, is that just a one-person position? Is James Kirby here by any chance? Okay. All right, well, hey, really appreciate you all coming to introduce yourselves, and even appreciate more the fact that you're willing to give your time to help us. As you know, there's a lot, it's a big lift in a town like Middlebury, all the things going on to make sure that it happens and that we're trying to move forward. So it takes a lot of people's time. If we had to pay for every service and everything we plan, people would really scream about the taxes. So thank you for stepping forward. And now we're going to move to bringing Jen up to walk us through. What's that? Oh, yes.
Should we nominate him?
Yeah, we probably got to finish. We didn't nominate yet.
I would move to nominate the submitted applicants to town boards and official positions for consideration and possible appointment at the next scheduled select board meeting on April 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now we're ready for you, John. So we know that you're leaving us.
Could I get your permission? I think you wouldn't mind this if I put in a quick plug for anyone interested in planning commission to attend a planning commission meeting. You know, we've got one this Thursday and next Thursday at noon, and there's a Zoom link, and I'll get that agenda posted in advance. I don't know if there's anybody else there. And then DRB, you know, we've got DRB meetings coming up on the 14th and another one on the 28th, I think. So it's good for people to know what they're getting themselves into. Sounded like you knew what you were getting yourself into. Though. Awesome. Thank you for being forgiving.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I have a second presentation if you're interested, just to talk a little.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'd like that.
All right. So if you want me to stop and talk about something more, or you've got questions that I'm not really hitting, let me know. The planning commission and I talked about this last meeting, and we were bearing in mind Andy's comment last time, like, what can you do to prevent surprises coming up? So I'm going to go through chapters and talk about some different themes that are a little bit new this time, and then you could ask me questions on those themes. So to get to that section, I think I'll go pretty quickly through these beginning slides, but I just wanted them in your packet in case you want to refresh yourself on the purpose of the plan, and the things that you can do with a current plan, meaning that next slide, I don't know who's advancing slides, but the one with the carrot is also kind of another way of telling you what you can't do if you don't have the plan. But it's a carrot slide, so we're talking about what you can do when you have it. The next slide just talks about, in general, about the Vermont planning goals. We have to get the plan reviewed by regional planning at the end. And regional planning is going to give us this review where they go through and make sure that we've satisfied all of these planning goals. So these goals relate to our thematic areas. You know, we don't just come up with them on our own. It comes from that second section in the statute. And then moving on, I stole these slides. I did not create these slides. I would not talk this way. It's your plan, but you're right. But someone else did, so you get the point. It's your plan, but there are requirements. These are the requirements of state statute that we need to follow, along with those state planning goals. And then municipal plan adoption, just reminding you that this is, we're up on 8 years, they expire every 8 years, that's why we're doing the update. And that the adoption process can take several months, because you have to warn it in the paper a certain number of days apart. It really spreads out the timeline for getting a town plan approved. There has to be 1 hearing at the planning commission level and a mandatory 2 hearings at the select board level, although you could add more at either level if you need to. So that'll be the last slide in the presentation where I'll show you a tentative schedule.
Is it ever the case that adjacent towns get involved in a municipal plan?
Yeah, we do have to send the draft plan around to adjacent towns and certain agencies.
Yeah.
So they could have comment on it. There's a chapter in the plan that talks about how our plan works with the other plans. So like Munger Street for New Haven is a little different than Munger Street for us. You know, they're trying to do like a bike path and we're not really at that point, and ours is unpaved and I think theirs may be paved. But, you know, like things like that, just like how do your districts match up like with these other towns that are adjacent to you?
Okay.
Yeah, but regional planning helps with that too when they review the plan. The next slide is just this planning, if you want more information, the Vermont Planning Manual, just one slide back, David, sorry, is at that website address. It's really great, it's like multiple pages, and has everything you need to know, flow charts, timelines, checklists, the whole 9.
Isn't that a 2017 thing? And it isn't up to date with respect to Act 171 or 181, for example, is it?
They can always, those documents can always be more updated, but it's the most updated document there is, and it has the basic timelines and checklists and flow charts that you need to understand the process as a whole.
And Jen, tonight you're going to present some chapters to us, and you had a slide a couple slides back on what's required.
Mm-hmm.
Are the chapters that you're presenting to us like required chapters, or are those chapters that you're putting together because they're important to our community, but then they highlight and cover the things that are required?
The latter, yeah. And when you read plans from other towns, like I got hung up for a while reading everybody else's plan, and they all have different chapter headings, and I tried to just sort of stick with what we had before, which was pretty good, I think, when I compared it to the other towns. But we have changed some of the titles a little bit. Like I think energy is now sustainability and energy, you know. So the next slide is the table of contents. So these are the chapters that he's referring to in our plan. So the titles could change a little bit. Education and childcare, you know, I think that there is a requirement that you talk about education somewhere, but having a standalone chapter, education and childcare, is a Middlebury phenomenon because there is so much going on here in that sector. But here's the table of contents that we have to work with. There's some maps at the end, just a standard set of maps that help satisfy some of those requirements, and then the appendices. So I thought we would just go through chapter by chapter and I'd give you some highlights of things that have changed. So stop me if you've got questions. The first chapter is historical development of Middlebury. This is going to be presented on the 17th in its draft form. Jeff has been helping make some updates with this one. Things that are new in 2025. Incorporating references to other historical groups in the timeline of the history of Middlebury. Jeff helped us realize that, yeah, that timeline is pretty much like all like old white guys. Like there's some other people who are part of the history of Middlebury too. So it's good. We'll have some other people to kind of flesh out the experience of what made Middlebury what it is today. Especially when we've got so many great historical figures. References to historic landscape features in Middlebury. So likewise, trying to help the environment have a voice in the history of Middlebury as well. So just references to that historical landscape. That goes back to work that Charlotte's gone, but that the Conservation Commission did, looking at old maps and things like that. So they've got some data that will go in this section. Referencing the new National Historic Register listings. So after the Bridge and Rail project, as part of that NEPA review that was required, there was that group that went around town and they looked at our old historic neighborhoods again and tried to figure out if anything could come off the list. I don't think anything came off the list, but added several new things to the list, like Chipman Park over there. A lot of that got added, and I think some properties on Seymour Street. So we have a new National Historic Register listing, so it has to be updated for that. Recommendations for improving the design advisory process, developing some guidance for the DAC to apply. You know, the design advisory committee they're great, but they don't have any guidance that they apply. You know, they're just using their best judgment about the character of Middlebury. So there may or may not be something that ends up in this section that just says that we would like to continue to just continue to work on zoning to try to enhance the way that we're protecting historic resources in downtown, which is really a requirement of the downtown designation. And I would say Middlebury is kind of more lax than a lot of other towns in terms of doing that. I think because we're very lucky that our developers are all really conscientious and hire good architecture firms and do the right thing, but there may be a little recommendation on that in there. Any comments on this section?
I just comment that pages 36 and 37 of the zoning are the basis for TAC recommendations. There's 2 pages in the zoning to give them some guidance, and I understand that more would be desirable for example, for new buildings in historic districts.
So you and I have a long-standing conflict about this. I think that the DAC, in your term, just kind of went after applicants and didn't have standards to apply. I've tried to make the case that there should be more standards to make it more prescriptive and feel more fair to applicants coming before them. If I had remained here, we would have continued to debate this out and find
There's 2 pages
a
and
reasonable
an adopted
solution.
ordinance that say what they're supposed to do.
I know what the zoning says, yeah.
We said they had no guidance.
Are we doing this right now? Okay. Any other comments on historical development in Middlebury? Okay, cool. Next slide is natural and scenic resources. This is what you might call the conservation chapter. So new in 2025, incorporating tons of work performed by the Conservation Commission. They did a really great analysis of, again, these historic landscapes, you know, thinking about areas like Shard Villa Road, and we know what it is now. We know it'd be nice to get it back to some of these restored wetlands that we see Ducks Unlimited doing, but there was a time, you know, but that's like the time that came before agriculture, you know, so it's not just like open farm fields. So they did a little treatment of that and wrote up something really nice that may end up in the appendix section if it makes this chapter too long. But they also, importantly, did the work that's required under Act 171 to identify forest blocks and critical wildlife connectors. So there's a lot of maps that express this and where these connectors are, and there's nothing, I don't think there's going to be anything that's too concerning there. I mean, it's what you would expect. The connections between these forest blocks are wetlands and streams, and it just calls them out. But the Conservation Commission was really fair, and they didn't propose any language that said you can't build here, you can't develop here, or anything like that. It was just really, it was instructional language. And so hopefully we can use that. So hopefully I still say we, somebody can use that to continue to work on the zoning in the future to, you know, build in some more protections.
For those of us who don't keep track of Act numbers, is this the Act 250 revisions?
No, this was a long ago one.
Okay.
That talked about literally just that, forest blocks and habitat connectors.
Okay, great.
Yep, thank you for asking.
Sure.
And then there will be some new additions on climate adaptation and resiliency, particularly with regard to flooding events. We'll want to talk about flooding from streams as well as flooding from the interior. And, you know, just make sure that Emily has what she needs in that section for applying for grants and things like that. The Conservation Commission did a little bit of work to articulate what areas have good conservation potential while stopping short of saying this parcel needs to be acquired and conserved, you know, so it'll give you all the tools that you need if a parcel comes in front of the select board, like, you know, with a proposal to purchase it or a proposal to preserve it. I know we've had that trouble in the past. We wish we had more mapping and more information about certain parcels, so hopefully more of that will get built into this section for your reference. And then, that's the pre-development conditions. So it's aspirational language. It says when we're restoring a property, maybe we should think about going back to the pre-development conditions of a conservation parcel. And so it's a good way to think about things more holistically. Any questions about that section?
Did you look at the areas that are conserved now and how we could make that into a larger block and if there's any potential there? Or
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, when you're talking conservation potential, is that kind of what you're looking at? How to create one larger block, or what is it?
There was some language in there that talked about, and boy, Jeff's still online. Jeff should feel free to weigh in on this at any time because this is his bailiwick. But as I recall, there's language in there that talks about how well we did with when VLT came to us with that Butler conservation property, and how that was nice because that was clay plain forest that was near other blocks that were also conserved to create some sort of like connection or continuity through there, and it encourages us to do more of that. And because it's showing all those different wildlife habitat areas, it makes it easier to do that or think about that in the future.
Okay.
I don't know if Jeff has anything to add about that. Jeff, do you have anything to add to this section that I may have glossed over or overlooked?
No, you're doing great.
Oh,
Let's just
great.
keep rolling.
Okay.
And I'm happy to catch up later on anything.
All right, thanks for the support there. Good. Local economy is the next chapter. What's new in 2025, of course, will be adding more language, emphasizing that connection between housing and the ability to attract a skilled workforce, and housing being related to local economy. It was already in there, but we just want to emphasize that some more because that's comes up a lot. Some language, just lending support for performing engineering work to open new lots in the industrial park. There's several lots in the industrial park that are not developed past FWWeb, but unfortunately they are not ready to go because Act 250 said that additional work needed to be performed to understand how the infrastructure would be run to those lots. Happily, that's something that ACEDC is working on, so this will marry well with their efforts. In fact, they may beat us too when we get the town plan updated. So, support for arts and culture as an economic driver, that really rose to the top during the downtown master plan. How Middlebury is so special and so blessed with arts and culture offerings, and Lisa at Town Hall Theater has offered to write a little bit to that effect, so that'll be good. And Ilsley, of course, is a recent addition in that area too. Yeah, just support for being a leader in sustainability, like the potential that we have to be a leader in sustainability as Middlebury, as an economic driver. I imported all the local economy recommendations from the downtown master plan, because we did have an economist and we had those focus groups, you know, like collected so much good information during those focus groups. So I just have them in chart form and just plugged them in there, not as actions and recommendations, but just in the body so that people could also browse for ideas from this plan document. And then we have a 2024 market analysis, which is wonderful, that they performed for this TOD master planning project happening near the Amtrak rail station. As part of that grant, they hired White and Burke to do a market analysis for us. So I got their permission and liberally cut and pasted from the beginning of that report, because it has all the data and statistics that are the most updated. So,
cool. In discussion of the importance of housing, is there somewheres in the plan that you talk about potential areas for future housing projects?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm glad that's what you want to see. That means I'm heading in the right direction. Good. Any other comments on local economy? Okay, good. The housing section, kind of talked through, I talked through a lot of the housing and land use section last time, just as a pre-preview. In the housing section, we just describe some of the housing work and the zoning reforms that we've done since the last update, just to have it in there. And then there's several recommendations for promoting affordable housing, things that we haven't done yet, but we might want to, a future planner might want to browse from in the future, just some neat ideas. And I took out ones that were obviously for bigger cities, but I think they're all pretty right-sized ideas for Middlebury. So once again, not in the actions and recommendations, but there for browsing in the body of the text. Documentation from the major findings from the downtown master plan. I wanted to make sure those got into the town plan. The town plan will reference the downtown master plan, so everything that's in the downtown master plan will be sort of in the town plan by reference. But I just wanted to call out some of the major findings, just to remind people that yes, we did want more density in downtown, and we did, you know, we wanted new housing that was walkable to the downtown, and, you know, concepts like that. I included the new housing targets for Addison County that have come from the state level that you were thinking of, and updated, of course, census info and statistics. And then it's the next section, the land use section, where we've included maps and explanations of what areas we're targeting for growth in the future. And I didn't go berserk. I think you'll be happy with it. I didn't add anything. I don't think I added anything too crazy new. It's stuff that we've talked about in the past. That whole neighborhood development area, of course, that you've kind of looked at that boundary so many times. And then the parcels that are in the R20 district, which we reviewed during the zoning update. And then we're gonna talk in that section, and Jeff is helping with this, we're gonna talk about where the growth boundaries are from the planning commission's perspective. And maybe that's where you'll have some comments. I don't mean to keep looking at you, but, but you know, I know some people are of a mind that like Happy Valley Road would be a great place for growth. The planning commission has typically been of a more conservative bent that we shouldn't really be growing much past the neighborhood development area boundary. And that a little south of there, it's Chipman Hill and the town forests that create something of a growth boundary there. But up on Washington Avenue Extension, that you wouldn't want to go much past the Painter Hill subdivision. That was about as far out as you want to be, and then you want to drop off into the ag rural district from there. So it talks about some of those growth boundary areas, and I think you'll find it interesting reading, and you'll get a draft of it, and then you can think about if you agree or you don't agree. So thinking about the schedule, you know, the Planning Commission is going to try to put together a draft for May, and then they're going to schedule their first public hearing, hopefully in June sometime, June or July. If you wanted, you know, you could all come to that public hearing, kind of hear how the Planning Commission explains some of these things, review that draft, and then if you need to build more time in that schedule to talk about certain things before you get into your hearing schedule, that would be a nice opportunity for the select board to kind of share with the Planning Commission what they think, so that when you're in your hearings, you can focus your attention on public comment from others on the outside. Just a thought.
Can you remind us of the interplay between the town plan and the zoning change process? Which informs, how do those talk to each other?
Yeah, theoretically, the town plan should be driving all of your policy changes.
Okay.
So theoretically, when you do something for zoning, it should be, the cues for it should be in the comprehensive town plan. We cheated a little in 2022. We took our cues for the zoning from the downtown master plan, which was also such a comprehensive process.
But if we as a body have ideas about what we would like to be allowed by zoning, we should go and make sure that it's part of the vision in the master plan as a first step.
Yeah, part of vision in the overall town plan.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
And even if it's just really high level sort of vision.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. So maybe think about that, and we discussed that a little bit today, but I really like that idea of kind of building a little flex into, maybe even having a fun joint meeting or something where you could talk directly to the Planning Commission outside of the formality of a hearing where really it's your job to be the people taking everybody else's comments. Like, you have comments too, so maybe that's the place that happens. What else is in that land use section? Oh, the idea that it's all well and good that we want to build as much as we can walkable to downtown, but at some point we're going to have to think about land that's a little further out. And while it may be a little dangerous to be punching into the ag district too far, because you do want to preserve that sort of rural landscape, you certainly have water and sewer going all the way down Route 7. You don't want to create the appearance of sprawl, but what the Planning Commission was thinking is that if you had nodes of development broken up by views in between, it wouldn't feel sprawly. You'd have a little condensed area, and then you'd have a little break, and then you have another condensed area. So liberally borrowing from Fred's work back in his day, I've got the poster board in my office where you've kind of like shown 3 different nodes. We also liked that nodal idea. So there being a node at and around Boardman Street. And when I say a node, I mean an area of mixed-use development where you've got commercial development, but you've got a little bit of housing to sustain it too. But that housing has like places where people can walk to services, so it all sort of sustains itself. And of course, connection with walking paths, so it's not just vehicle-oriented. So a node at Boardman Street, and then another node probably at Halliday Road, although a lot of people have said that the Halliday Road node sort of smashes into the node that might be at Katy Road. So I see 3 nodes. Some people on the Planning Commission see 2 nodes because they see Halliday and Katy sort of together. But either way, you've got that water and sewer infrastructure there. Why not take advantage of it? You've got protected highway district zoning. So here's a good example, Andy. You got protected highway district zoning that goes all the way down Route 7. I'm remiss to change that zoning until we get something in the town plan that shows nodes and shows that we've got some buy-in for this nodal concept. And then you go back and you would change the zoning in those nodes to probably mixed-use zoning, because mixed use allows housing, protected highway does not.
Gotcha.
And the mixed-use zoning district allows like a good amount of density. Or you get real fancy and you cut and paste the zoning that may be developed from the, the Amtrak rail platform master planning, if you end up liking that, and you could cut and paste that into the mixed use areas to make it more intense mixed use. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Have you had discussions over the impact of that, where it's along our one kind of high-speed transportation corridor versus, seems like you discounted Happy Valley Road, which would be a somewhat of a node and still fairly close to town, but away from, you know, it links directly into the center of town without having to put more lights on the Route 7 or something.
Yeah.
I think she was talking about the mixed commercial districts, which I think is tougher on Happy Valley maybe.
Well, I didn't follow you for a second, but then I
talking-
latched back into what you were
she's
saying. You're talking about the
mixed
traffic.
use.
Yeah.
So, but would that allow for housing too, or?
Oh, yeah.
In your mixed use?
Yeah, if you,
Looking for housing, and because
Absolutely.
it does no good to plan more commercial without planning housing.
right, so these nodes right now are zoned protected highway district, which does not allow residential. So,
Right,
so
yeah,
if you
so
come
that-
through and you say, okay, here's where node of development, and you change those to mixed use totally allows residential.
Which is what I was getting at.
Yep.
Is the
Okay.
housing portion.
And then when you mentioned the node at Happy Valley, I freaked out a little inside, but my face stayed the same because I thought you were talking about over on Washington Avenue Extension, but you were talking about more like where the traffic circle would be. And I agree.
I'm talking Happy Valley Road where the college owns the land.
You are talking it, so my heart is beating again. Okay.
Yeah, I would see that as less intrusive to the flow of the community. I would love to see a traffic study, building these nodes out. I mean, it does seem like sprawl, and whereas building into a you know, a little pocket, a little rural pocket where they would flow in from several different roads into the community, especially one of them is going to link into what we feel is going to be a roundabout. I just feel like traffic flow, that's a better plan to me. I'd love to have you guys look at that and explain why one is not good and the other is better as part of that process.
You're talking about maybe dense housing on Happy Valley, but not considering it as mixed commercial and housing, or are you?
No, I don't need commercial.
I didn't think so.
We have plenty of
Okay,
commercial
good.
space. If somebody,
Yeah, I
we
agree.
have places to build commercial. There's a
Absolutely-
lot of
absolutely
unbuilt
agree.
spots
Okay.
down on Exchange
I
Street.
think it's the term node that's throwing us off.
I think that's it.
And node is such planner speak. Like, thank you for
No,
showing me that. Like, yeah, a node is supposed to be both, like a mixed use. Like a node is like this brand new village center sort of.
This isn't what's throwing me off. What's throwing me
No,
off?
it's throwing
is-
It's throwing me off. It's throwing me and Andy off.
Oh, well, I mean, when you say a node down there,
Yeah.
98% of that's gonna be housing. I don't know, I just don't see enough of a demand for commercial space here right now.
Sure, but if you put in 200 units, maybe you get a corner store, right? And it's nice to have a zone that can support whatever that
Yeah.
little community needs.
Okay, I don't wanna.
No, I don't know if
I'm really shocked that you already discounted an area that we've looked pretty heavily at.
I think it was on the housing slide, Happy Valley was mentioned, right?
She just said earlier that they had looked at that and didn't plan that.
So let's talk for a second about the neighborhood development area.
Correct.
So you know what I mean by the neighborhood development area designation, right? You've got like a downtown designation, a village center designation, and you've got a neighborhood development area. And I just had this conversation with Andy today. Andy and Zeke were in hanging out with me for a little bit this morning, and Andy's working on a checklist that he's going to use with other developers about the things that you absolutely need to have in a community before you can even have a conversation about housing development at scale. And I was like, why are you putting that together? He's like, because everyone calls me about Stonecrop Meadows and wants it in their towns, and I just want to see how they, just give that checklist to them and see how they rank in that checklist. So one of the things that's at the top of the checklist is a neighborhood development area. If you're not in a neighborhood development area, there's just no way that they can do this affordable housing at scale. Our neighborhood development area boundary doesn't go as far as Happy Valley Road. It ends at the co-op parcel. And I tried really hard to negotiate with the state to get them to extend it out, but they felt because of the lack of bike and pedestrian facilities that go out quite that far, plus the fact that it is so far, that they wanted to end at the co-op parcel, see if we could do something with that co-op parcel, and then if we can activate that parcel and build up to Happy Valley Road, they'd be willing to look at an amendment. So if I discount that area, it's only because it's beyond the edge of the NDA boundary.
Okay, how far does it go south of town?
The NDA,
Yeah.
again, annoyingly, only as far as the Marriott. So I would love for it to go as far as the Boardman Street parcel to pick up that college-owned parcel there. The reason that they didn't do it there is because, again, there's no pedestrian connection between the Hannaford Plaza area and Boardman Street. We did a study. We used a TAC grant from ACRPC. Hugh turned us on to it. We used a TAC grant to do a connectivity study about how you could create the best path. And so we looked at 3 different alternatives, and we chose a multimodal path. The participants chose a multimodal path on college land across the front of the Sabre property between Hannaford Plaza and Boardman Street. And I would love nothing more than to proceed with that and get it designed and get it toward the point where we could construct it. Sadly, we missed out on that funding last year because the grant went to Rogers Road. So, but maybe next year we can have as much urgency behind this connection between Hannaford Plaza and Boardman Street, because that will allow us to go back and get an amendment to that NDA area and push it down further so that they could do something with that Sabre parcel.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of it also is that we didn't have those areas planned. You know,
It was planned. It was planned.
But
and I gave.
No. I'm like,
Okay.
we didn't have in our master plan to have housing in those areas prior to that.
We did. In
I had a master plan.
1977, the Adams Acres was originally a residential piece and
talking-
commercial piece.
No, yeah, but
I'm talking the Happy Valley Road.
Oh, I thought you were still talking Boardman Street.
No,
Yeah,
not, but
I'm
we-
chagrined because we
we've
did have a
already-
master
we've
plan for
already
that.
talked- I mean, those were our 2 prior. I'm not arguing about Boardman Street. I'm arguing about going further south.
Okay.
One thing about going further south to Happy Valley, you kind of jump over the co-op project, and it just puts that's a development out with really no connection to the community. Like she said, the first development really needs to take place at the co-op policy, and then Happy Valley.
I'm not
jump
disagreeing
over
that-
and put a development out in the middle of nowhere right now.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing that the co-op, if they would offer the land up to develop, it's, the best spot.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't control that, and the college is willingly said that those 2 parcels would be potentials. We have somebody who's willing to have their land developed on, so.
So I'd love nothing more than for the college to have a conversation with me so that I could explain to them certain barriers like the NDA boundary, and they haven't done that yet. But I
think they
did talk
fully
to.
understand
But I
it.
did talk to a developer the other day who had just talked to them, so I did pass that information on to him. So hopefully it goes in that direction. But
Yeah, I mean, they got a site that is working for us, but we need to have a realistic site, a site that developers will find attractive and that we can get behind, included in here. And hopefully it doesn't sprawl with community. Let's move on.
Hey Brian, if I may, just that the Happy Valley parcel there that the college owns is zoned right now for R20, that goes out to Ellen Drive. It's just that the NDA doesn't go out to it. So it is shown right now in the kind of the deepest brown that we have for high density housing. It's just that right now the NDA doesn't extend out to it. So I think folks are on the same page here. It's just right now a matter of sequencing.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
climate and energy, these are the 3 recommendations you saw last time. I can talk through them if you want. I think they were also very fair here. They really got the message that this is a comprehensive town plan, that some of their ideas haven't been vetted with the community at large, but they certainly stuck with ideas that I think are pretty fair and pretty reasonable, and they've been actually delightful to work with, so it's great. Sometimes you get scared when you work with a group that feels so passionately about a certain issue or whatever, but Mike has been great and Alice has been wonderful, so I think you'll be happy with these 3. I think they hit the right tone. We do have some other recommendations that they'd like to put in other sections. I didn't love all of them, so there may be a time when you want to discuss that as a group. I'm pointing at Fred because he's on the Energy Committee, so you know the recommendations that I was concerned about. There were some that came from the Energy Committee. And I encourage the Energy Committee to take those out of what was passed forward to the Planning Commission. But I mean, you were there that day.
Part of the process between the Planning Commission and Select Board to.
So it's fair for me to.
Planning Commission can propose what they want to propose, and the Select Board will listen, also observe the public input on it, and decide what seems appropriate, what's doable.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that they didn't follow my recommendation that day to take out the more intense stuff, because Fred thought maybe you'd want to handle that at your level. So once again, I think that's something that you should handle before you get into your hearing processes. Cool. Transportation, 2025, adding references to our bike ped plan, so that's good. The bike ped plan and the process, because I think there's more to be done with the bike ped plan. I think the infrastructure committee needs to take the big matrix at the end that we purposely did not prioritize and start to prioritize it according to what they see as their needs. We didn't, as the planning commission, we didn't want to force the hand of the infrastructure committee. That'd be a little awkward, so we just gave them a great tool that they now need to sort of prioritize in terms of projects. Conceptually, I would really, well, this is getting back to that same thing, Brian. Conceptually, I'd like us in the transportation section to be willing to preemptively support new development with adequate paths and sidewalk connections. So, you know, if you want the co-op parcel to go, or Happy Valley to go, or that Boardman Street parcel, which is part of the Sabrin property owned by the college, we need to get there with some paths in order for the state to amend our NDA to allow them to be able to do their affordable funding applications. And then Emily, I'm sure, will have an addition or two for that section too that'll help her with her grants. Education institutions and childcare. Didn't really change much in this section. There'll be updates for talking about new childcare facilities, the new freshman dorm, but no new recommendations really in this section. I've always had a great experience with the college. There's nothing particular in my time that me or the planning commission have really needed or wanted to add into this section. I think it has been used in the past to kind of highlight certain issues with the college, but feeling pretty good about things these days. I think I got it easy. So, community facilities and services. Everybody, all the department heads have been really great in terms of giving me updates for all their individual departments, including Ilsley. And yeah, Emily's working on her public works update. So this will be a very informative section, probably not heavy on strategies and actions, but just a place that people can go to as a resource to figure out what we've got going on in Middlebury.
Hopefully they're heavy on where they can fund things.
Oh yeah, so
just kidding.
To that point,
I'm
glad that you said that, because yeah, I was thinking one thing that's not in here that you guys might want to think about, and the planning commission is happy if anybody wants to submit any information about this. We don't have anything in our plan about taxes or finances or things that we need to be thinking about in the future in terms of large projects and how we pay for them. We didn't feel that was really our area of expertise, but if there's anything that you want in the comprehensive town plan along those lines, feel free to submit comments. Otherwise, we're staying hands off on that. But maybe things in the next 10 years are different than things were in the previous 10 years. I don't know. I don't really understand that stuff anyway.
Current environment, it'd be tough to put anything in a plan, so.
Okay, all right.
But you can put in that all donations are welcome.
So the last slide is the tentative schedule. Planning Commission has most of their content together. If they could approve a draft plan by May 15, which is an aggressive but tentative deadline for them, then they can send the plan out to the neighboring towns as required by state law 30 days prior to their planning commission hearing, which we have tentatively scheduled for, what am I doing here?
May 16th?
No, June 17. Oh, May 16 must be the day I thought that we would do the mailing.
30 days before the 17th.
Yeah, to do the mailing. So their first hearing would theoretically be June 17. And then there's some formatting that should really probably happen with a graphic designer in June and July. Your select board hearing could be July 22nd or August 12th. Your second hearing could be September 9 or September 23rd in that area. And then if you wanna schedule a third, you can either approve it after you close the hearing, you can have a motion to approve it that same night, but I gave you another meeting in this schedule, so maybe select board approval is October, November. Either way, the plan is done.
Is the ACRPC land use map, does that go into the
Yeah, I skipped that on
approved plan?
I skipped that on purpose because I didn't want to derail the whole schedule.
All right.
Hang on, I'll be right back to it. Thank
Okay.
you. And then select board approval, you know, hopefully, you know, prior to November 28th. So, the future land use map is that Act 185 thing that you're thinking of. So, each regional planning commission is going to create a future land use map as directed by the state. And that land use map may or may not sync with local zoning maps. Adam has been really decent about it so far, really tried to involve me, is trying to involve the planning commission, is doing a roadshow right now to all the different towns. We'll stop and have a meeting with our planning commission, really wants them to be similar. So, but, you know, like that conversation about Happy Valley Road, or, you know, the conversation that never ends with us about the Boardman Street connector, like, you know, like why does Boardman Street not connect all the way over to 116? And I've had some conversations with the Fosters, and I have a different kind of understanding of other people who have conversations with other people. So, like, you know, we have to kind of figure out how Adam shows those areas on his future land use map, because all we have for our future land use map is a zoning map. So it's as far as we've felt comfortable going with zoning. So, yeah, that'll be a meeting with the planning commission, and if you guys have an interest in that, maybe you want to attend a planning commission meeting or submit comments. I'm not really sure. Leave that to Mark and David to figure out, I guess.
Remind me when they're targeting to have that map approved?
Yeah, probably sometime in August or September, Adam thought. So you may be able to incorporate that into the plan.
Yeah.
But they have draft maps now. Like, I have a draft map that I could share with you now. It's his first crack at it. But he hasn't presented it to the planning commission in a formal meeting yet or anything, but.
Could you get that to Dave and
Yep.
get it out to us, just so we can kind of see what
Yep.
they're thinking?
Yeah.
It's interesting having regionals looking at it before we've even finalized. You'd think it would feed up from a town.
Right.
Well, hasn't he built it from looking at Middlebury's plan and zoning?
Yeah, but he uses these different zoning classification terms, which I'll have to send you a supplemental document to even begin to understand those terms, so I'm not really sure.
They're more generalized. Our zoning has more districts and so forth, and his might just
Okay,
be
so it's basically
a
a
growth area
housing.
residential instead of our number this and our number that, number, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But those future land use maps have existed for a long time. It wasn't like he just built it the other day from our current zoning, right?
Right. Past regional plans have basically adopted by reference to support all of the town.
Okay,
Town
so
plan maps.
there is a link to it?
Oh, yeah. Particularly if you have a delegate representing Middlebury who's both is connected with the town closely and able to.
Yeah.
things that they track together.
It's probably in the more rural areas where it's gonna become an issue. Okay, any questions on this? What's your last day?
15th.
Yeah, well, so we won't see you again.
No.
But you're gonna lead through the next, you have a couple hearings or a couple meetings before then
With various different bodies.
with various different bodies.
Yeah, I've got planning commission on Thursday. We've got a really fun snazzy DRB hearing happening on Monday, which is sketch plan review of 2 potential future big projects. I really encourage them to come in, even if it's only sketch plan level, you know, they're not complete applications, they're just sketch plan, but I just really wanted to know that the DRB knew about them before I left, you know. We're gonna write up some good minutes to help JR as he receives those final applications. We're gonna write up preliminary determinations, which is what you do at sketch plan, that tells you all the things you kinda need for your final plan submission. That'll help him a little. And then on the 15th, we're gonna have an and this wasn't my idea to fast track it like this, I'm being pushed by others, please forgive me. We're gonna have a meeting, I guess, a public hearing to see the results of the master planning work that was done over at the rail station. We tried to have this meeting a couple months ago, but everything was on a federal funding freeze, and now it's like, oh, hurry up, have the meeting before you leave. So now we're having, like, all of a sudden on the 15th, but it'll be posted on the website so people can review it at their leisure, and we'll tape the meeting, but that's our consultant.
Yeah. Jen, I think there was a very nice article written in the Addison Independent summarizing some of the things that you felt were.
Can you hang on 1 second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a question about that TOD master planning project?
No, I was actually gonna thank you, but, I'll let
okay.
Fred go ahead.
She keeps
Well,
trying
I
to
just
cut you
say-
off every time you
Well, no, I'm all serious. Sorry. Okay.
No, I just,
There you are.
there's a lot of things that you summarized, or summarized in the article about things that you felt were accomplishments, and, you know, some of these, there's so much going on, having that brought back to our memories, I think was valuable. I felt it was valuable, and for my part personally, I wanna express thanks for, your efforts and best wishes for your new position in Hanover.
Great, thank
Exciting
you.
professionally, I think.
Yeah. Thank you for being here the whole time. We've had some good conversations.
We have.
We've had some rocking conversations.
Yeah, well.
I need somebody to geek out about planning with.
It's close enough, Fred can drive over there anytime he wants to and talk to you about
There.
that. So be
Thanks,
careful, he
Dan.
probably will.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Plenty enough here.
Yeah, well, I wanna thank you as well. I feel like you've made some, you know, the downtown master plan, the bike pad, and a number of other very significant things that have contributed to us moving forward, and you know, that is important to our community, and so thanks for all your efforts, and we really do appreciate it, and hope that you're rocking over, and you're gonna be in New Hampshire?
Yep.
Where in New Hampshire?
Hanover.
Oh,
Not a bad
great
place to
community.
be.
We have a little college there.
I've heard of it.
Not a bad, I've heard about that place.
Yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Did you find housing yet?
Oh my goodness, that was a nightmare. Yeah, found an apartment. You know, an apartment dweller. So I got my cup of ramen all in my little cabinet. Going
Yeah.
back to my college days.
Very good. Hot pad.
Yeah. But it's only 10 minutes from work, so that's good. Yeah. There's so many things to explore in the Upper Valley. It's a total brand new place for me. Yeah. Still have to find a place to store my canoes.
Yeah, okay. Did you get one?
I got one.
Okay.
And so now I have two, and now I have to move.
I have
hear-
four, and that's
I
why
hear
I'm
you
not
have a couple
moving.
racks at your house. Maybe
I
I'll
do,
drop them
yes.
off to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
give me a call.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Mark, I think you have a solution to help carry us into the
Yeah.
period of not having Jen here.
Right, so Jen's last day, as you heard, is the 15th, and we are requesting this evening that the board appoint JR to serve as interim zoning administrator from actually the 15th through the 22nd. I know the packet says the 8th, but he will actually be away on vacation for a portion of that time, so we need to keep Jen as our zoning administrator in that time. And then we'll come back to you on the 22nd and look for you to appoint him as the primary ZA until Jen's successor is in place. So, and during this transitional period, we'll share a little more information with you as we get closer, but JR, assuming you appoint him tonight, will serve as the zoning officer. We met earlier today with Adam at the Regional Planning Commission to talk about what kind of services they could provide us during this time. We're also reaching out to some consultants to fill some of the gaps, and the position, as you know, is posted. We've tried to share it widely, and we're hoping to attract some well-qualified candidates and be back before this board with a candidate as soon as possible.
So the proposed motion says Middlebury zoning administrator, and you said interim. Is that important that?
Until the 22nd, when you make your appointments, and then we'll ask you to
Okay.
appoint him as.
So you want the motion
primary.
for the interim?
Interim, the 15th through the 22nd, please.
I would move to appoint J.R. Christ as Town of Middlebury's interim zoning administrator effective April 15th, 2025 through April 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Check
Okay.
once more.
Uh,
Yeah, it's on the board.
check warrants.
Fred, could you swing
Pass
that
that board.
check
Oh,
back
sorry.
first?
Uh-huh.
It's like highly classified information.
Get back in. We'll let you
Got a
know.
little fucking
You
ridiculous.
just left there for about an hour trying to do these things.
You should ask me, I would have known, but.
I know you would have. Okay, I'd like to move the total expenditures in the amount of $436,871.60, consisting of $310,322.28 for accounts payable and $126,549.32 for payroll for the period of March 26, 2025 through April 8th, 2025.
Second?
Seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I forgot to pull that on.
No executive session, we'll go to board member concerns. Fred?
Will there be discussion, maybe at our next meeting, about organizing further retreat, topics that because we started with sort of asking about ideas, and then it was left that maybe the staff had some ideas and could collect information or suggestions from members, and I'm just wondering how that's gonna come together so we can prepare and be effective on May 8th.
Thought we had left it to send topics to Mark and myself, if you had your top 3 topics. And then we could see what each person independently of their top 3 and say, you know, here's the scoring, and are we in agreement that these are kind of generally the top 3 topics?
Has this already happened? Have you already got this from other members?
No, nobody has.
I was like,
I'm adding it to my calendar right now.
I think it was at one of those deals, it was the end of a meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
And we walked
The end of
out.
one tonight?
And
Okay, thank you.
Fred, you
To
forget
do-
very little.
Can you give
So-
because I'm new, can you give an example of like the scope of the topic? Like,
So we're gonna, typically, when we're setting aside time to talk about, the issues, the strategy, thoughts, you know, the housing is a great one. Say, you know, if we wanted to talk about housing and we have difference of opinion, where's our priority? It does us no good to be battling if we're trying to do a development here, there, and another spot. If
so
we're
a
not,
topic could be as broad as housing.
could be as broad as housing.
Sure.
Okay, it doesn't need to be like specifically how, you know, like those.
No,
neighborhood
how do we,
districts.
no,
Okay.
how do we,
Got it.
if it's housing, you know, it ought to have a point, how do we, increase housing stock?
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Or decrease.
Yeah. That
I
really
can
helped the
send you the
businesses.
housing section of the town plan so that you've got something to base that on.
That'd be great.
What did we talk about last year for reference for Megan?
Library?
The
Library, all,
It was, well, yeah,
How to pay
it
for
was 90% library.
yeah.
So it can be just one topic. We knew we wanted to try to get this done, and we were trying to figure out strategy.
As it grows. Okay.
So that's really what we're trying to get to, is what's, agree on a strategy that we can get behind.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
It was
necessarily
a
solve.
little unusual last year in that Dana and Joe McVeigh
They were there.
were there and heavily contributing to our select board
Okay.
meeting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, my number one would be money.
Okay.
So, along that, I know it's Fred's turn, but along that topic, which would really help influence me and looking, cause I know my 3 topics, we seem to repeat them every year, but we have a new town manager, and it would really be great to see how he feels where we are as a community, and what he thinks would be his priorities. I know we can establish his priorities for him, but I'd really like to hear from Mark a lot, maybe before the retreat, how he sees this community, so we might tweak what we think our priorities are.
So if we sent things before the next meeting to Brian and Mark, and then they were able to come back and, as you suggest, this is just the very thing I was getting at, can there be some melding of things that includes the staff and what they feel is needed from what they're seeing and hearing? And
It'd be
get it clearer on that 8.
Kind of interesting
Why
to go
don't
back.
we, let's get our topics to market it. And he and Andy and I are planning to have a set down. We'll make sure we do that before the meeting. And we will extract from Mark, without putting him in the position as a new town manager on camera, of saying what's screwed up in our town.
Oh, I'm not worried about him doing that.
But
We are.
we have an obligation to protect him.
I think he's smart enough not to do this.
So, but we'll bring back his thoughts as part of it. I mean, we'll make sure that he's driving some of the bus there.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, it is a select board retreat. It's
right.
The idea is to get the 7 members of the select board on a page, so that we're providing guidance and support behind whatever the major issues are.
I
Or
would
it could be one of the ones was about that. I don't know, like 9 years ago, we had one, and it was a long time ago, and it was about we actually had a consultant, and we were working on. We're working on how do we get to a better position of counseling and doing the performance evaluations and everything on the staff, and
that worked well.
We had a plan. We didn't have.
It took a little time to work through the pipeline.
Yeah. So, but I mean, those are the type. It can be as different as that.
No, I said that somewhat flip with money, but there's a huge challenge to fund the capital improvements we have, as well as the financial situation that is ahead of us in the country and the world.
That's a good one. There's your number 1. Yep.
Okay.
I don't even know if number 2 and 3 would even rank.
So this is we're moving on. Isabel?
Thanks to Jen for all your hard work. I will miss you dearly, and all of our chats in the parking lot.
Oh, and if you have recommendations on DEI, it's not too late for you to get those over.
Okay, great.
My turn. Thank you, Jen. And my question is, when do we get to do committee assignments? Because I still am not on any committees.
That would be
next
board that we have to do at the next select board meeting.
We need to do the next board meeting. We should have done it at the meeting that I missed.
Yeah. Andy always goes under the bus every time.
But no, I mean, early on.
Yeah, no, I understand.
We were supposed
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah. I wasn't here as part of the organizational meeting, so.
Okay, so next meeting.
Yeah, we'll do
We'll
it.
get to it.
Cool. All right.
Sorry.
Well, it's great. I've had a chance to learn a little bit more before I am thrown into that, so I'm fine with it. But I wanted to make it happen.
Yeah.
Seems right.
Dan, you're back?
I'm back, and thanks, Jen. Thanks very much, and I'm excited to see where we are with the library. If you know, reading the updates and how fast things are moving out there, there's a lot of balls in the air, and that's pretty amazing. What's going on? It's happening quickly, so exciting.
Hauling a lot of stuff out of there.
Yeah, they are hauling a lot of stuff out of there, yeah. I didn't realize how big those additions actually were. The library's gonna be left there, it's gonna be a little teeny building
Yeah.
sitting there, but.
Just to add to that, just so you know, starting on Thursday for a week and a half, they're gonna be shutting, as they told us they would, a portion of the lower lot for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. So if you get any concerned calls that the project's expanding, this is what they told us they're gonna do. It's a week and a half, and now that's just for the last geothermal well,
Right.
down below.
Forward
When
all
is that?
good sand.
Starting Thursday for a week and a
Okay.
half, they just, so a portion of the lower lot will be closed to allow that to take place. But then they'll reopen it.
Where's that?
It's the portion of the lower lot closest to where we are right now.
Okay, just down the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, another wall.
Rod?
I wanted to again mention this local minutes site that was in 7 days. I got to talk with the author of that up in Essex, interesting programmer from Montreal. But I actually used the site in preparation for tonight's meeting to check the attendance of members of our boards and committees. And in particular, I asked this site, localminutes.org, what were the attendance patterns for members of the Middlebury Infrastructure Committee in 2024? And it gave me a beautiful list of who the members are and a meeting by meeting list of who attended with links to the minutes for each meeting. And then at the bottom, it said, perfect or near perfect attendance, Heather Seeley, attended all meetings once via Zoom and left early in a meeting in March. So like the quality of this, I am an AI skeptic. I think it is a horrible tool which will destroy society and potentially all of humanity. But I find this particular application to be quite good at surfacing and sifting through a lot of fairly well structured but hard to wade through material. I sometimes spend part of these meetings like flipping madly through minutes on our website to find things, and this is a really cool tool. So I also mentioned to the author of this site that I would suggest it to the folks here to play with it and bring to him anything that you find that it's useful for or that you wish it was useful for. So
Local minutes?
localminutes.org. There was a very nice article on the guy in 7 days a couple weeks ago, and it's a pretty cool site.
I need help with that, proving to you that
Yeah,
I
right?
hardly ever miss a meeting.
You have to
Got him now.
We're gonna
That's
check
my
it
one
out.
a year.
Yeah, good. That's it.
Okay, so I'm gonna be gone, well, the
There's the guy.
lower lots closed, so, I leave at.
Perfect time to leave town.
I'm leaving at 4 AM tomorrow, and I won't be back until the Monday before our next meeting.
Wow. So we don't have a lot of time to discuss things prior to that.
But I'm back on Saturday, so I'm wondering
I see.
Saturday morning,
Perfect.
we have
I
coffee
think that makes
together.
sense.
and-
Yeah.
And do that, because we really need to get it done, so. I look forward to us working through some of the stuff. I think this is, what we just saw tonight, the plan, that's something that we're, I wouldn't say stuck with, but it spans 8 years, so we ought to make sure that you take some time and that we get engaged on that, so that we have the best tool that we can to be driving this, decisions at state and whatnot. They'll be looking at that if we're asking for funding for something. Well, why didn't you plan it?
Mhm.
So, with that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.